9, I got a phone call from a friend inviting me to a little soiree that her and her husband were putting on back in West Virginia. He was the director of Nassau Langley, and the event was TEDx Nassau. What I learned while I was there was that NASA is the space exploration agency. And with the advent of quantum physics, they started to ponder, well, how do we explore inner space? Because there's actually more space inside the atom than outside. What are we going to do? And that's where the idea was born of technology, entertainment, and design. Now, about 2 months ago, I attended the event in Park City, TEDx Women, a simulcast between New York and LA, and about 100 other satellite venues like Park City that were attending it as well. And a number of the presenters used the term that they were in the third act of their life. And it really got me to thinking that that's me. I have way more days behind me than I have in front of me. And what am I going to do with the rest of that time? So today I'd like to share with you some of the truths that I've come across in terms of relationship intelligence. Going into my first act of life, I came in highly empathic. Now, sympathy is when we feel something for someone. Empathy is when we start to internalize that and experience what other people are experiencing. Some of us came through with a few extra genes of empathy, so as I was a little kid, I would have thoughts and feelings that I had no idea where are these coming from. I thought I was a walking Looney Tune. And I started watching TV and movies, and there would be these scenes where they would talk about insanity, and I'm like, now, who do you tell? How do you even admit that to yourself that, okay, maybe I'm one of the crazy people? And do crazy people know that they're crazy? Is that even possible? So this sent me on an exploration to find out what is going on informationally on planet Earth. What I came upon is this controversy between physics and metaphysics, science and religion. One is looking at things from a finite language. One is looking at things from an infinite language. Well, we got to give it to the physicists on this one because they were the ones who had the idea, well, wait a minute, we're both pointing at the same thing and we're both falling short of ultimately understanding it, but we're using finite terms, they're using infinite terms. Why don't we learn some of their language? Guess what happened next? The quantum field. It changed everything. There's a whole lot more going on than we ever imagined. And so now, let's go back. If you were to ask a scientist 20, 30 years ago, do you believe in God? Well, no, I'm a scientist. There's no proof. You ask those same people today, and they go, oh, I don't have to believe. I can show you the proof. There is a superior intelligence at work, and we can show you all where it shows up, but we keep learning more about it, so you'll have to keep checking in with us to see what's new. Okay? This led to an understanding of the difference between theosophy and philosophy. In theosophy, we have a belief system that's all put together, and it's handed down, intact. In philosophy, you put all the information on a table, and you keep walking around and looking at it from different perspectives. So we can come to conclusions in the moment, but a philosophical mindset leaves the door open for new ideas, because if I cross paths with better quality information, I'm changing my mind. I don't have to stay with what people believed years ago. One of the things that humanity was on about in terms of their belief system, as an example, is that the world was flat. New information, good information was introduced saying, no, it's not. It's either spherical or elliptical, but it's not flat. It took us hundreds of years before we were willing to open our minds and accept, okay, we were wrong, let's move on. So this is one of the things that I encourage people to do, is don't hold on too tight to what has been, because we're in a state of flux or change, and we need to stay current to the new information that's coming down the pipeline. In the Old Testament, I was raised Jewish, there was a little saying in there that there was 144 million chosen. Now, I knew my name was on that list. There was no doubt. But then I started wondering, well, there's more than 144 million people on the planet. There's more than 144 million Jews on the planet. So what's the deal? And what happens to all the people whose name isn't on the list? Are you telling me that this creative being made a game where only some people win and everybody else loses? They're just extras on the set? And organized religion wasn't giving me any good answers to this. Years down the road, I crossed paths with this article on the morphogenetic field. It was a study done these islands off of Japan where they were feeding monkeys these sweet potatoes. One young monkey decides, okay, I'm done with the sand on the sweet potato. I'm going to throw it in the river, rinse it off, and eat it. Monkey see, monkey do. The more monkeys that started doing this, it became more of a norm. The weird thing is, and this is where the term the 100th monkey came in, we don't know if it's exactly the 100th, but when enough monkeys on this island started adopting that new behavior, monkeys on a completely different island started doing the same thing. And this is where they started studying that every species has a morphogenetic field that if enough of them adopt a certain ideology or behavior, the whole species gets it instantaneously. There is proof that humanity is a collective consciousness. In fact, if a quantum physicist was to come into the room right now, what they would see is on a subatomic level, we are all exchanging physical matter with one another at an unbelievable rate. And yet we're holding this idea, well, I'm up here and you're out there and we're all kind of individual. Not so much. Back in 1952, Winfried Schumann identified the vibratory rate of planet Earth. And like before when they did the atom, they thought that was the building block. They thought this was a constant. Well, years later, the thing started moving. Well, this can't be happening. But it is happening. And it's changing the electromagnetic grid of planet Earth. So what do we have that's electromagnetic? TV waves, radio waves, microwaves, brain waves. The wattage is getting turned up. This isn't a belief system, this is reality. Where is it showing up the most? Our children. They're the most open and vulnerable. So if you've got a kid playing with a fraction of a percent more than what we used to, how do they handle that? I mean, they're telling us what, we play with maybe 10% of our brain? There's some controversy, but it's somewhere around a 10 percentile. Well, what if they had a fraction of 1% more than normal? What does that do to that little being? So now there's all this stuff out there about the indigo children and the rainbow children. They're human beings that are just playing with slightly more wattage. And what do? Oh, let's start throwing Prozac and Ritalin at them and get them back into some semblance of normalcy because there's something wrong. No, something is moving forward and we need to help them understand where things are going, which means we need to wrap our minds around it as well. Some functional stuff that we can use. I work with people in developing a dual monitor consciousness. If anybody's played on the computer, you've seen that you can have one program running over here and a completely separate program running over here. It makes it really nice if you're doing research and you're writing a book or an article that you can have both of those going simultaneously. We have two sides to the brain, and we can do that with each other. What ends up happening is I meet someone new, and if I'm using the monitor that's me and my information, I'm interpreting everything about that person based on how I look at, listen to, and feel the world. The one thing I can tell you is I don't care how good you are at perception or communication, if that's what you're doing, you're not getting that other person. There's something different about who they are and the way they experience life that you're not availing yourself of. So we have the capacity to maintain who I am, what I know, what I think, what I feel, and have another monitor that is, well, who are you? And let me put your information on that monitor so that I can truly understand who you are and where you're coming from. Now, one of the things that we tend to do when we look at other people is we become our little judgmental selves. Oh, that's good, that's bad, that's right, that's wrong. I don't know how we get away from that because it's just part of who we are, but it's not the most functional way of learning about another person. So what I encourage, if any of you have raised kids, this will resonate, is looking at things in terms of immature to mature, unsophisticated or sophisticated. If a little child breaks something that's incredibly valuable, we're not going to disown them for life. They didn't know any better. Now, as they get older, we're going to try to teach them the meaning of value and respect so that they don't do those kinds of things anymore. Well, if we're only playing with 10-some%, we've all got a lot of room for growth, which means we could be a little bit more open and allowing and understanding with each other in helping them to grow. There's a lot of talk in the marketplace these days about the subconscious patterning, subconscious programming. The degree of difficulty is try to have an intelligent conversation with your own subconscious. Okay? So there's all these ways that we do to try to, inadvertently program it. But here's the cool thing. I can look at someone else and I can get a better sense of who they are subconsciously than they can. If I'm willing to invest the time and the energy to be that kind of a reflection, we can get some good work done. So an example that I give is, you women will appreciate this, I could give you the finest makeup on the planet. No mirror. Put your makeup on. No mirror. It's going to probably come out a mess. I could give you mediocre makeup and a really high quality mirror. Now we can accomplish something. Now we can get something good done. We can be that kind of a mirror for other people to help them learn and grow, but for some reason, socially, societally, we don't want to get involved. I got my own thing going, you got your own thing going, and that's the game we tend to play. Change agents take this whole dual monitor thing a step further. Most of us, okay, this is my monitor, this is who you are, and I'm really trying to be objective about understanding you. Change agents go, well, who are you in terms of who you think you are, and who are you really on the inside? What did you come here to accomplish? I talk about it in terms of soul. What did you as soul come here to do? we can help each other figure that out. Because the more you pay attention to someone, the more you start seeing. As a species, we are moving from a spiritual adolescence to a spiritual adulthood. We're starting to become more than just radical teenagers. We're starting to figure some things out and getting to the point where we can do something about it. We're moving towards what in marketing they call a tipping point. That critical mass where something starts to shift. Back to the 100th monkey. If we can get enough human beings to wake up and show up at the powwow table, we can change everything. We don't need to change everybody, just enough people so that the morphogenetic field kicks in and it'll take care of itself. So, if you or someone you know wants to be one of the chosen, here's a little esoteric secret. The application form is inside of you. You need to choose yourself because nobody or no thing is going to choose you on your behalf. You decide to take control, to step up, good things will happen. And I look forward to seeing you on the front lines.